I just had yesterday evening a discussion with Tamil devotees, and it took twice as long because of translation. But the English is good. I like
English
it.
is English is okay, Maharaj.
Fine.
After the class, we translate into Hindi. Those who are not fully understood, they will understand, Maharaj.
Mm. Let us begin. Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. For your morning class, I guess it's Saturday morning over there in India. What time is it in India?
5:30.
5:30 morning? Yeah?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Fine with me. A verse was identified. Of course, that was then said, you can take any verse you want. So, but a verse that was identified was Canto 7, Chapter 5, verse number 30. So those of you that have some way to access that verse, you can find it. 7, 5, 30. And the person that's speaking is Narada Muni. Narada Muni is relating the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. And his Prahlad Maharaj's reply to some questions that were asked of him. I think I'll just read the Sanskrit, or we can, you can recite it responsibly. Let's do that. Shri Praradho Vacha
श्रीप्रह्लादुवाच
Tirna Krishne Paratak Svatova
मतिर्न कृष्णे परता सहोवा
Mito Vipadyeta Grahak Prathanam
मिथो विपद्येत ग्रहव्रतानां
Gravratanam
Danta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram
Adanta
ददान्तगोभिर्विषताम्
Gopir Vishantam
Punak Punashcharvita Charvananam.
Puna Punasya Charvananam.
It's a very celebrated verse. Those of you that are accustomed to hearing lectures by Srila Prabhupada, he refers to this verse many times. We'll start with the translation, BBT translation. Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused. either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. Now there are two extreme territories that are going to block bhakti or bhakti rasa, the flow of an inclination to serve Krishna. And more common in the world is the sense gratification category. There's no harm in mentioning there's another one, that the persons that artificially or on a material platform basis, they try to deny the senses in an artificial way, and thus making their heart harder and harder, and that also blocks bhakti rasa. It blocks bhakti because it's negation, 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 rather than engaging in service to Krishna, the senses, with objects of the senses in service to Krishna, which is bhakti and bhakti rasa. So this is the more common of the two extremes or pendulum swing efforts. That is, persons who are too much inclined because of the uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life, make progress towards hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. That's a phrase, chewing the chewed. It's a phrase that can mean different things in different cultures. You know, in India, supposing that, you know, it's not at all uncommon, persons make sugarcane juice, and they take the sugarcane to make the sugarcane juice. They grind the sugar cane into some grinder or machine that squeezes the juice out, and then they throw away the cane. And then supposing someone goes to the cane that has the juice already removed, and they chew the cane that already has the sugar juice removed, and it's just dry. A very similar, different but similar metaphors used to describe not just the materialists, but the renunciates. I'm making this mention because it's part of the Bhagavatam's message. Those who thrash the wheat, and what's left is the chaff from the wheat, and they take the chaff and thrash the chaff when the wheat has already been removed. And the understanding is such persons never get any benefit because the wheat has already been removed. The benefit they get is their hard labor. So that's the hard labor of the materialist, trying to get some happiness from material existence. And it similarly applies to the renunciate, the artificial renunciate, that the happiness by negation and then parching the senses, the extreme austerities, etc., etc., the happiness that persons wish from material activities is gone. And so, in either extreme, it's a simple point, either extreme, real benefit isn't come. So here, the focus is the materialists, persons too much addicted to material consciousness and materialistic way of life. Materialistic way of life means objects. I'm being told to turn up volume. Objects, senses, involving the senses and sense objects with the attempt to become the enjoyer of those sense objects. Now, I don't know how to deal with this fact that this keeps making noises. If I do this, can you hear me? If I do this?
Yes,
Can
Guru
you,
Maharaj. We are hearing, Maharaj.
when I do this, you can still hear me, yes?
Little low sound, Maharaj. Little lower.
No, I can't hear you. So I have to tolerate. Oh, I know what to do. It's my phone making these funny noises. Pardon me, I'm going to figure out. Me and technology aren't buddies, but I'll see if I can figure out how to stop this noise.
Now this is loud and clear, Maharaj.
No, I turned my volume on the computer up to the maximum. It's maxed. But my phone is receiving text messages. And when the text message comes, it makes a ping. So you hear the ping. I can hear the ping. And I will have to figure out how to turn the ping off. Pardon me while I get entangled in technology. I'm sure there's a way to do this. Besides my computer. Oh, I know how to do it. There we go. Figured it out. Okay, we're back in business. Okay, so now we're back to the verse where Prahlad Maharaj is speaking about the peril of materialistic life. And those who are engaged in materialistic life, they cannot develop an inclination towards Krishna. They cannot, by their own effort, they cannot by the effort of others, or they cannot by a combination of the two. They cannot. And inclination towards Krishna, what does that have to do with our life of devotional service? Well, it has everything to do, because the life of devotional service has a sadhana, but the sadhana has a sadhya. The sadhana has a purpose. And what's the purpose? Affinity for Krishna, attraction, attachment to Krishna, love for Krishna, prema. We're in stages. But even attraction to Krishna, that the verse is saying, inclination towards Krishna, even at the preliminary stages, is not going to develop for those materialistic persons too much attached to the idea. And then from the idea comes the effort to enjoy the senses with sense objects. Say it the other way. The material world is created for the living entity who has a desire to be an enjoyer of, separately from Krishna. Therefore, enjoyer means objects. And so a world of objects for the senses to interact with. And as long as that's the program, and there's no reversing of that tendency or replacing of that tendency with something superior, and it goes darker and darker and darker. That's materialistic life. And no amount of more materialistic life is going to make it easier to get freed from materialistic life and the bondage and the unwanted part that goes along with the wanting to be the enjoyer part. You know, the duality. You search for happiness, you get distress. The more one searches for happiness, the more one finds distress. And there are different ways of describing all of that. Let's hear how Srila Prabhupada presents this in his Bhaktivedanta purport. We'll start with the first paragraph. It's a long paragraph. In this verse, the words Matir na Krishna refer to devotional service rendered to Krishna. So-called politicians, erudites, scholars, and philosophers who read Bhagavad Gita try to twist some meaning from it to suit their material purposes, but their misunderstandings of Krishna will not yield them any profit. Because such politicians, philosophers, and scholars are interested in using Bhagavad Gita as a vehicle for adjusting things materially, for them, constant thought of Krishna or Krishna consciousness is impossible. Matkir na Krishna. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18:55. Bhaktyamam abhijanati, only through devotional service can one understand Krishna as he is. The so-called politicians and scholars think of Krishna as fictitious. The politician says that his Krishna is different from the Krishna depicted in Bhagavad Gita. Wow. Even though he accepts Krishna and Rama as the supreme, he thinks of Krishna and Rama as impersonal because he has no idea of service to Krishna. Thus, his only business is Puna Puna Charvata Charvananam, chewing the chewed again and again. The aim of such politicians and academic scholars is to enjoy this material world with their bodily senses. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that those who are griha vrata, those who only aim is to live comfortably with the body in the material world, cannot understand Krishna. The two expressions, griha vrata and charvata charvananam, indicate that a materialistic person tries to enjoy sense gratification in different bodily forms, life after life, but is still unsatisfied. In the name of personalism, this ism or that ism, such persons always remain attached to the materialistic way of life as stated in Bhagavad Gita. So, one of Prabhupada's favorite topics, you picked a nice verse. The one of the favorite topics, he's an acharya. He's a world acharya that wants people to be happy. And he knows that which is never going to bring happiness, which is always going to bring misery, is the path of fruitive activities or materialistic life. And so again and again and again, warning, like intimidating, but real, letting people know the path that is the common path that people walk, and hordes of people are walking the common path of senses, sense objects, trying to enjoy the sense objects in different ways. But the principle is quite simple. And then the termination of the materialistic way of life is made not possible. The termination of materialistic life is attachment to Krishna, or as not just attachment to stopping suffering. Because you can make efforts to dial down the suffering, and that's another suffering. And it doesn't lead to termination of suffering. It's just another variety and another turn, another phase of time. So the remembering and becoming Krishna, remembering Krishna, or remembrance of Krishna, Krishna Smarana, remembrance of Krishna always, is possible through bhakti and not otherwise. That's the verse that's being spoken of. Here comes verse number 44 from chapter 2. Bhogaishvarya pasaktanam taya paritachetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhauna vidyate. Same message as this verse from 7th Canto Bhagavatam. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Samadau na vidiyate. Those who are attached to material enjoyment cannot be fixed in devotional service to the Lord. They cannot understand Bhagavan Krishna or his instruction Bhagavad Gita, Adanta Gopir Vishatam Tamishram. Their path actually leads towards hellish life. Now, there's another long paragraph that I'll just amplify. It's the same message that we hear Srila Prabhupada speaking or the Bhagavatam speaking from different angles and again, to not confuse ourselves with and complicate our life with material existence. We need to have this clear turn left or turn right. And the turn left is the materialistic way of life, and the turn right is the spiritual way or the remembrance of Krishna way. And there's one path won't lead you to the other. Or implication in materialistic life, then the determination to engage in devotional service will not take place. Very, very clearly expressed. Last paragraph, as confirmed by Rishabdev, Mahatsevam Dvaramahurvimukte. One must try to understand Krishna by serving a devotee. The word Mahat refers to a devotee. Mahatmanastamam Partha Daivim Prakritimashata Vajanti Ananya Manaso Gyatva Bhutadam Avyayam. Oh, son of Pritha. Those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. A Mahatma is one who is constantly engaged in devotional service 24 hours a day, as explained in the following verses. Unless one adheres to such a great personality, one cannot understand Krishna. So back to the dialogue here. Hiranyakashipu wanted to know where Prahlad had gotten this Krishna consciousness. Who taught him? Prahlad sarcastically replied, my dear father, persons like you who will never understand Krishna. One can understand Krishna only by serving a Mahat, a great soul. Those who try to adjust material conditions are said to be chewing the chewed. No one has been able to adjust material conditions, but life after life, generation after generation, people try and repeatedly fail unless one is properly trained by a Mahat, a Mahatma, or unalloyed devotee of the Lord. There is no possibility of one's understanding Krishna and his devotional service. Now, the themes in the Bhagavatam are simple. They're expressed in poetic language in nice ways by different authorities, and Prahlad is one of our great authorities, 12 Mahajan, Prahlad Maharaj, one of the 12, a great authority. So what he's saying is with great authority. And in a blunt manner, he's informing his father, even if I told you, where did I learn this? You wouldn't understand. On your own effort, with my help and combination of the two, you would never understand. Now, that's kind of like a slap in the face for a person who is thinking that he's supreme. Who is this Vishnu? Because you're saying Vishnu is supreme, but I'm the supreme. So where'd you learn this from? You won't understand. Now, the person he heard from is Narada Muni. And the person who's narrating the story is Narada Muni. So, Narada Muni understands he just made an enemy by speaking to Prahlad the way that he spoke to Prahlad and his mother. But Narada Muni is not intimidated by the demon. But he knows who to speak to and who not to speak to. He spoke to the child in the womb, and the child in the womb, when he became born, he was enlightened soul, even from within the womb. So there's different parts to all this narration. That is, even a child, even a small young person. I see little boy in his picture here, Sadhusangananda's son. What's your name? Unmute yourself. What's your name?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, my name is Rihan Raj.
Okay. So you may be understanding or not understanding. That's okay. Hearing has an effect. And that hearing has an effect on the heart of one who, like you, has some inclination to control the mind and control the senses and focus the mind and the senses on the target, the objective of life. And just by hearing and hearing and hearing, then one can come to that stage, even if it's weak, it can become awakened because it's naturally within. That's the whole message of bhakti. And then those that are like us practicing sadhakas, we need to know whether to turn left or right, whether to turn when there's choices to be made. It's easy to say, there's another thing to do, but make the choice that moves in the direction of attachment for Krishna. It's very simple. The principle of accepting things that are favorable to remembering Krishna, or things favorable to serving Krishna. We accept those things. And those things that are not favorable, we leave them to the side. We don't just call them a bad name, we just leave them to the side. We don't accept them. We don't incorporate them in our practical dealings of life. And that's a foundation, starting point for bhakti. Now, later in Prahlad's teachings, he's going to, especially to his classmates, he's going to express a lot about bhakti. But here to his father, he's not going too far into the bhakti process because he's being very clear, my dear demoniac father, you're not going to understand, even if I explained it to you or by your own effort. So taking the big picture of Prahlad Maharaj and his message to his father and to his teachers and to his classmates, different audiences. But the message of bhakti is very clear. It's from beginning and middle and end. And that's the message, that the primary message that we should receive from this beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. Continually engaged in hearing of the name and qualities and activities of the Lord and his pure devotees, and become fixed in remembrance of the Lord and his pure devotees by our affinity for him. But that affinity for him and the whole process of hearing and chanting is going to be greatly inhibited by affinity for enjoying matter. So let's see if there's some discussion or somebody wants to add something to these points.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances at your lotus feet. We are extremely grateful to you, Maharaj, for this wonderful class, because this sense control is the foundation to move towards devotional service. And this is a very important topic.
Yeah.
And every day we are hearing from you, and it's a festival for us that we have discussed many times. One of the questions comes to my mind that most or some devotees means in grihastha life, sometimes in some cases husband is not inclination, has no inclination towards devotional service, or the other side sometimes wife does not have inclination. That time sometimes we feel frustrated or getting anger, or sometimes that devotional service is very difficult. So these types of feelings comes in the mind of devotees. In those circumstances, what should be the driving force to continue in devotional service? Hare Krishna.
Well, the driving force, that's your question. So Krishna is the driving force. The kindness, Krishna is very kind. I mean, many people will write lengthy something or other, and my thought and my communication back is Krishna is very kind. And the Krishna is very kind, not only when it looks very attractive, it can also be Krishna's kindness comes when he gives some bitter medicine because one is not well. So he prescribes, like a doctor, some bitter medicine. And that's Krishna's kindness. So each of us, now back to your question, each of us are in different circumstances of life, they're our own body and mind. And then in course of time, we find ourselves in the company of other bodies and other minds, a friend or a spouse or a family member or relative or a mother or mother-in-law or, something, where compatibility isn't what we might want or might wish for. And then what do you do? So that's the question. The question is dealing with inconsistencies in what our wish list is and what is being sent our way. So if what's being sent our way has a lot to do with choices that we've made in the past. Good fortune, ill fortune, we know from Bhagavad Gita, we're the architect. Sadasad yoni janmasu, purusha prakriti stohi, bhunkte prakriti jangunan, karanam gunasangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. The good fortune, ill fortune that comes our way is due to our past activities. And our past activities are indications of our free will choices and the modes of nature that we're influenced by and so forth. And so we're reaping the result, good fortune, ill fortune, of those past choices. So what to do? Depends. There are many responses that are appropriate responses, but certainly let me understand whatever good fortune, ill fortune that's being sent my way. It's being sent my way because it's appropriate. Supposing I get illness, that's not another body in my body or other mind in my mind. It's just my body. It's something from the past. So like Prabhupada's statement, if one's resistance is strong, one will not contract a disease. If one's resistance is weak, more vulnerable is one to contract a disease. So what do I do when I'm in a situation that's not so favorable? Accept it. And then without changing the mood of service, what's a practical service that's appropriate for me in this circumstance? What's a practical service for me in this circumstance? And what can I do to help the circumstance, the person, or whatever, the persons, the dynamics become more favorable for Krishna Bhakti? And I may not have an immediate answer, but don't deviate from that mood. And then choices can be identified if that mood of service is strong and operative. And mood of service means that Krishna should be pleased. Not service means to get what I want. Service means that Krishna should be pleased. And if that's I'm trying to respond to your question, what to do in circumstances that are unfavorable. Recognize the unfavorableness has everything to do with my past activities. Here I am in the midst of life. That's the fruit of my past activities in developing in an ongoing manner because time passes and circumstances change. Now, what's the orientation that brought about this was rebellion against Krishna. What am I going to do now? I'm not going to rebel against Krishna. I did that. That was a mistake. And I'm receiving the fruit of that mistake. Let me stay fixed in the concept. So how do I do that? Good association and here in a regular basis. Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya. So I can stay fixed in what is going to be pleasing to Krishna mood. And then I start making choices today rather than just reacting to the choices I made in the past. And, the favorable, unfavorable reactions, circumstances, favorable, unfavorable. How to move in this life with circumstances that come from my previous activities in a way that I don't deviate from the mood of Krishna is to be pleased. And then if that's the intelligence, if that's the spirit, then one gets, practically speaking, one gets better intelligence, how to deal with situations, what are the choices, what are the favorable choices, and to make the favorable as opposed to the unfavorable ones. It's called life in devotional service, because not everything is favorable. And it's really easy to think of, what about our founder Acharya? What about Srila Prabhupada in his life? Were circumstances unfavorable sometimes? And what do you do about that? He stayed the course. That's what we should do. And if Krishna so desires, then the unfavorable can become favorable. Yeah, it doesn't happen with a snap of our fingers, but it may happen over time. And something that's unfavorable may become favorable. It can happen. And even if it doesn't happen, that my dedication to serving Krishna and pleasing him through my choices and my actions not waver. That's the path I'd like to walk on in this lifetime. Anybody else wants to make some contribution to this discussion?
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. Sadhu Sangananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, like you told, tendency to enjoy materially is the
Mm.
greatest inhibitor in developing attachment to Guru and Krishna. So, by your causeless mercy, I've understood that material enjoyment is leading to frustration, and that experience I'm getting. But while developing this spiritual interest, there is a this I'm finding myself in this transition stage, and there is a tendency to in try to enjoy bring that material enjoyment things in the spiritual things, like for example, taking enjoying the prasadam, trying to do some devotional trips like yatras and all, but having in mind that I can I have a that enjoyment tendency in there. So what should we do in this step transition step, Maharaj, that uh, which may keep me very sincere and very at the same time I want to have a very like you told that Srila Prabhupada wants us to see happy. My Guru Maharaj wants me to see happy. So how to enjoy spiritually, Maharaj?
Well, you keep Krishna in the center. And, easier said than done, but that's the principle. Krishna in the center. So let's take prasadam. Krishna in the center, prasadam. You prepare, you gather the ingredients, you prepare the ingredients, you offer the ingredients, and now you're tasting the ingredients. And the thought of devotional thought is, oh, this was prepared so nicely. Krishna must have enjoyed it. I mean, the tongue is experiencing something, but before it reached your tongue, Krishna was experiencing something. And, so then you may want to say, could we, I see the hands up. It's distracting. Thank you. Tulsi Pati, thank you. Thank you. Um, with an appreciation that Krishna must have enjoyed this, or Krishna has enjoyed this. Let that become your happiness. Let's say, something else. I see you have a nice altar. So you can invest time in preparing outfits and ordering the outfits and dressing, doing the puja in such a way that the deity is dressed very nicely, and you could take some pride and absorbed in a prideful way. But then, that's certainly possible. People do that. But then there's let Krishna be the enjoyer. And then you stand back and look at not only your altar, but someone else's altar. It's how much devotion has gone into preparing the deity and the backdrop and the decorations and the ornaments and this and that. And it can be very simple, and the simplicity also is beautiful. So where your attention goes, who's meant to be the enjoyer. Now, because there's material tendencies, then the tendency is, even in devotional life, as you're indicating, to be the enjoyer. So music, our youth, maybe your son isn't one, but our youth in all over the world, they really like kirtan. They don't really like japa, and they like the musicality. So to move from the liking of the musicality and the social interaction, etc., to the position that it's really the purpose is satisfying Krishna. So I'm just giving examples of amplifying what you're saying. The tendency to be the enjoyer, even in the realm of devotional service, is strong. And how to deal with it is your question. Let Krishna be the enjoyer, and that's a cultivation. Then the cultivation, it requires sadhu sangha, the association of those devotees that have that increased, what to speak of, they're matured in that realm, and take their association and you receive from them what they have, and you try to give to others that same principle, and that's our bhakti life. The sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti. Goal, Krishna should be pleased and become attached to, try to become, cultivate becoming attached to that principle in all aspects of devotional service. Some are easier than others. That's okay.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Kirtida has another question, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I have a question that you said about left or right. Means either we should go spiritual way or we should go in materialistic way. That means mm, we should leave the things abruptly. I mean, we are very much.
Abruptly is not what it means. And it's not, our process is not abnegation. Our process is not giving up. Our process is seeing those things, just like, you have a family. You're a woman with a son and a husband, and it's not abruptly give them up. It's connect those natural things for you as a woman in service to Krishna. So how I can engage myself with family in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. We don't abruptly give up. We sort of spiritualize. And by spiritualizing in course of time, grahastha life may become vanaprastha life, and vanaprastha life may become a more complete stage of dedication to Krishna life. But it's gradual, not abrupt. With Krishna at the center. That's the cultivation part.
Hare. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Tulsipati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hello.
Sadhu Guru Maharaj, back to good and bad fortune you answered because of past life. So my question is that in my own life, I'm working and did not have much time. So desire is there to serve, to read more and more, and learn other things like music and all, but I'm not getting time. In such situation, and I'm busy because of my past. So how to adjust those things, Maharaj?
I see a harmonium right behind you.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, you're one step closer than you were yesterday. Yesterday you didn't have one, and today you have one. And now you're lamenting, oh, I don't have time. So you just, a recommendation is little steps. And then little steps that are regular. Cultivation, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's statement, I live by it. Progress is a series of small steps in the right direction. So you do have time. You're using your time in other ways. You're making choices of time. Now, there may be very good reasons why you're using your time the way that you're using your time. And there are good reasons. I could look at myself and say, I've been wanting, just sharing something. I've been wanting to develop Sri Brahma Samhita in a written form so that devotees can have it and hold it in their hand and study it, in language that's not Bhaktisiddhanta too high language to understand. So I've been wanting to do that. And it's very meaningful to me. It's incrementally too slow. At the same time, I am doing other things that are meaningful to me and making choices. So yes, you're a grahastha at a stage of life It is what it is. Take some time each day. This is my recommendation. Take some time each day that's a step in the direction, and not just one day out of the month, but daily, so whatever the amount of time is just like people that are starting to chant japa, some part of the time each day. And you chant one round, or you chant for 5 minutes, or whatever it is. And you do it every day, and you do it because that's abhyasa. And that way you can move from where you are to where you want to be. And because it's something that's meaningful to you, music or whatever the other thing is that you're more study of scripture or something. And then another is on Ekadasi days, twice a month. Decrease that and increase this purposefully in a regulated way, and make it part of your life. On Ekadasis, you're really looking forward to Ekadasi, and besides just minimize the eating, or minimize the cooking, or minimize the stuff, you maximize on the spiritual side, and you start to put some of that in along with some certain number of minutes. It's time management, certain number of minutes each day, and the thing that I want to grow in, whether it's Bhagavatam study or musical instruments or something. I'll do a little bit every day, and then an Ekadasi day, expand a little bit and diminish on the material side purposefully. And then you grow in that direction. It's like a little plant that there's some sunlight. What happens to a little plant? It sees the sunlight, it grows towards the sunlight. What plants do? They grow towards the sunlight. So expose yourself to a little sunlight in increments.
Rakesh Roshan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. Guru Maharaj, I feel there are multiple desires in my heart. So, how I can try to bring only Krishna desire in my heart?
You cultivate. The how to, you know me. And when people say how to, I have a very simple answer. You know what my simple answer is, right? Sadhu Sangha. Because in the association of sadhus, I do what sadhus do. And what do sadhus do? Bhajana Kriya. And the Bhajana Kriya has an effect, an artha-nivritti. So there's so many, too many desires. And I'm plagued by the too many desires. What to do? Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha-nivritti. So in the association of sadhus, you do with sadhus what sadhus do. Bhajana Kriya. And that gradually, however slowly, but it gradually will reduce the unwanted things, and then leaves the wanted things. It's like cleaning your house. Supposing you come into a house, Prabhupada gives this example. Supposing you enter a house that hasn't been inhabited for years and years together, and it's a mess. You start to clean. And when you start to clean, what happens? The dust that's all over the place starts to swirl around the room, and you can't breathe properly because there's dust flying around. And what do? Keep cleaning, and eventually the place is clean. And then it becomes habitable. So the so many desires and wishes and attainment options, they're distractions from Shuddha Bhakti. So what do? You practice Sadhana Bhakti, and you do Sadhana Bhakti in the association of devotees, and it gradually becomes purified. clean. Strive for purity, and then the distractions will reduce. They're still there, but they'll reduce in volume and quantity, both. That's sadhana practice. In the association of devotees, sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya. Very simple.
Agari Prabhu.
No, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for Guru Maharaj. I got the answer. I got the answer, Prabhu.
Okay,
Maharaj has given
Pavan
the
sir
Thank
or
you, Guru.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance at your lotus feet. Guru Maharaj, very clearly you have given us that what is my disease and what is cure. The termination of material tendency is
Prabhu,
ego.
your voice is going. I think you must have made two instruments. One you can stop it.
Get off your phone.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
There we
Guru
go.
Maharaj.
Okay.
Maharaj, very clearly you have given us
Something wrong, Prabhu.
Yes.
Sister. Somebody else can ask the question. Governor and Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, just like when I compare the life of Prahlad Maharaj, he took birth in demon's family, so maximum association what he was finding of demonic nature. So when I compare my life, like I'm investing time in the morning in chanting and hearing, so that may aggregate to 1 or 2 hours. But when I go to the work office, occupational duty, so maximally I'm interacting with the non-devotees. So interaction with them, it affects my consciousness a lot. So how to protect myself with that 2 hours of devotion, so is what I'm doing in the morning, and keep it myself safe for the next 10 hours of occupational duty interaction.
Well, if your example is Prabhupada speaks about taking an inoculation. When you're going into a diseased place, supposing there's an epidemic, and you're a physician, so you go into an epidemic area, you're exposed to the disease. So before you go into the epidemic area, you take some inoculation. So I recommend that the time that you spend in your daily sadhana before you go to the occupational place, you strengthen it. How somehow means a very practical one. In the evening, don't stay up so late, so that in the mornings you can get up a little bit earlier. And then a little bit earlier means every day, at least the 5 days or the number of days that you do your occupational duty, you're taking some fortification, some neutralization. So on the positive side, the neutralization of being susceptible to the infection. And then a second benefit is don't just take their association, but give your association. Meaning you can infect them with bhakti. You're a carrier of that disease called bhakti. It's a good disease. And you can transmit it. Now, how you transmit it depends upon the time, place, circumstance, and the people and variables. But you're carrying bhakti, and my life, 10 hours a day, is to transmit bhakti somehow. And I don't know exactly how to do it, but I know that that's a facility that's given to me. So a protection against taking unwholesome is to give wholesome association by your words, by your performance. So after some time, when you perform in that way, people in the workplace will look at you and say, what's with this guy? We're busy, criticizing one another, and he just carries on. He doesn't indulge in the criticizing others. And he's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're not part of that material game. You carry the character and quality and speech of somebody that's different, and be content in, even if it's subliminal. You're passing on bhakti by your example. And that's a way that you can carry yourself into the workplace. I'm an emissary from Krishna into this dark workplace where there's, the opposite of bhakti. And let me see what can be done as a representative of Krishna to bring purity into a place that's not pure. Now, it depends on the circumstance and the extremity of the conversation and the behaviors, and what you're going to do, and so forth. But you can change the atmosphere. You can spiritualize or bhakti-ize the atmosphere by carrying bhakti and giving it, transmitting it. It's a different thing. You can bring prasadam. You can engage in conversation. You find somebody has an interest in such and such. You give them an article, a printed article on such and such. So you're sharing an interest with them, and depending upon the person, perhaps you can gradually interest them in something that's touches the topic of devotion to Krishna. You're looking for the little spark, and you fan that little spark, and that's your function. You're a representative of Krishna in the workplace. That's not Krishna conscious, but that's your function on Krishna's behalf, somehow. At least for some person or persons in the workplace. They may be people that could become, in this lifetime, a little more drawn to Krishna than they are today. That's a service. There's protection. By giving association, there's protection against receiving unwholesome association. It's easier
Thank you
said,
very much.
but that's a principle. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Maharaj, this is a question from Joyce Prabhu. His question is, I would like to perform bhajan kriya nicely, but senses are driving me to enjoy materialistic things. How to align all senses to please Krishna
This how-to question again.
all day while performing duties?
Okay, a little step at a time, and in the association of devotees, you take steps that are doable for you and sustainable by you, and you do some of that. And you start moving in that direction and away from the distracted direction. Step at a time, cultivate bhakti by practice in good association. Now, Pavan Sarovar was having trouble with the sound. Maybe he could also send a message in a text form if he can't, correct the sound system.
Tulsipati Prabhu has another question.
Can I try once, Maharaj? Now it's my sound is understood.
Sounds better? Sounds much better. I don't know what you did, but keep going.
Okay. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for giving a very clear picture that termination of materialistic dark life is only by hearing from pure devotee. I'll text messages because it is disturbing Maharaj.
He's muted.
Tulsi,
What did he say?
Tulsipati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I have one more question, Maharaj. Regarding the balancing the services. So one service I have here in Seva group and other studies, so, like Bhagavatam studies and all. Another service here for me is like here in locality only 4 devotees are there, and festivals comes and Sunday programs comes. Then if one devotee does not reach out of 4, then it will be a little. So I have to go there also. I spend some time. Festival days, almost every day Harinam Sankirtan. So my mind is here. I am not doing services in Seva group. My studies and other services are going on. So balancing is a problem for me. How to balance those both services, local services and services.
Well, yeah, it's not, I don't like the word balance. I like the word time management. And then, you only have so much time. So you carve out or you dedicate within reason this much and that activity that much. And then when the bell rings, you move to the other area. You do what you can do consciously in a focused way, and that's what you can do. So it's time management, it's not balance. You may in course of time you may adjust the priorities percentage wise of time for this and percentage wise of time for that. Then it's not exactly balancing, it's just time management. The time is Krishna's time. It's meant for him. So what is it, not just what you want, but what does Krishna want? And you contemplate what Krishna wants. And then when you're doing it with focus because it's what Krishna wants. And then the bell rings. It's time to move on. Just like, beginning our class right on time. I'm busy. It's okay. From this time to that time is giving class. And then as soon as class is over, I'm on to the next thing. It's time management, not balancing. And if you have a question, consult those persons that you look up to, your authority persons, for guidance. But then you make decisions and you stay as much as you can within reason, regulated with your time management. Okay, I think it's time to end. We've gone for 2 hours, 1 hour. And Satyavrata, ready to sign off?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. One last question. Introspection question from Sridevi Mataji. That Krishna gave me every opportunity for performing bhakti, but why I am struggling when the taste of devotion is ultimate goal of life? Please guide me.
Well, we're struggling because we have one boat, 1 foot in this boat and 1 foot in that boat and trying to cross the river. You fall into the river. That metaphor is, a metaphor of one of our great devotees who wrote like this. Jagatananda Pandit. Don't make the mistake of trying to cross the river with 1 foot in 2 different boats. So gradually, it's the opportunity knocks because Krishna is kind, and our affinity is for the temporary to some degree, and that's the other boat. So we don't act with firmness and fullness because of that distraction for the temporary, and involvement in one way or another, involvement in the temporary. We don't trash the temporary, we engage the temporary in service to Krishna. That's the key. Bhakti rasa is the key. Okay, Krishna.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. We are extremely grateful to you for your very inspiring class. Naresh.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Yeah.
Jai.
Jai Balbhadra.